well. So it emphasizes the need of community support. And throughout it, the themes that are often always being shown is self-efficacy, right? How we, the people, have to do this because the government is not coming and they're not coming to protect us. And throughout their entire message, they're also instilling hope. Hope for the future generations, hope for there is going to be a better time when we don't have to see violence and sadness and just terrorism for the rest of our life. Then we go into the romantic quest framework. So Fry talks about the different elements that go into what's called a romantic quest framework. So there is heroes involved, and in this particular case, the heroes would be the Dr. Mireles and the Hipólito Mora, who were one of the major faces of the movement, who started the movement, and of course all of the autodefensas, all the people who decided to unite in the movement and who decided to put on those white t-shirts and go and help the community. The villains are very clear. The villains, it's the cartels, it's the government, they're not helping us. The setting is the state of Michoacán. This beautiful place where there's all of these green avocados that bring so much money and economy, but that are also a contributing factor to why there's a lot of violence. Has shown temporal relations, the battles, the little events that are going on throughout the hero's quest versus good and evil, and essentially the quest, what the hero is trying to find is freedom for its community, for its people. Okay, sorry. Then my key findings, as I had done this thesis, would be first that there is definitely power in narrative. It's a way that we are able to communicate with people. And the community of San Citaro, the municipality, they very much constructed this story of resistance, of defiance against the cartels. They were able to construct this story of unity and community through their shared purpose of finding freedom and hope for their people. And they justify their actions, right, of taking up weapons and having to do things that are not necessarily pretty in order to find that freedom, find that peace again. Also, there's community transformation. As I was analyzing the artifacts as well, I can see how this community, how these people went from a state of fear to a state of empowerment. So seeing that change of being a victim to now being a survivor was something that I very much liked seeing it develop as well from an academic side of it. There's this collective identity and this commitment to sustain the movement. And the rhetorical strategies, clearly they're identifying, they identified the threats that they were facing as a community. They had this strong moral justification of why they were doing what they were doing. And they had this strong emphasis on unity, solidarity, and the focus of their future generations. So where is this gonna go for our kids, our grandkids? What is this gonna look like 10 years from now? So just some broader implications to this global relevance. Dr. Blair is always like, Ayla, remember, it's communication. I was like, yes, it's communication, but there's a lot of social components to it, right? But this can be a model for community resistance. It can go to like maybe other Latin American countries, but even within our same state, those communities that fell back into the hands of the cartels, they can maybe follow this, see this, and how to regain that power again, maybe where they went wrong. Those are things that can be analyzed. Talks about the importance also of our local solutions. What we do locally is so important as well. And also challenging sometimes our state authority, right? I know it's a little bit different here in the US. You don't want to start something crazy like that, but in the circumstances meant for other Latin American countries or Middle Eastern or different things like that, there will have to be challenging authority. Future challenges for this moment, for this community, this movement, is definitely maintaining this vigilance. We have to sustain the movement, and it's been 10 years, which is particularly pretty good for social movements because they tend to die pretty fast. But that's the challenge, right? How do you keep this movement going? I had discussed with my committee and other people, is I believe that we have because we have a constant threat of the cartels always wanting to come back in. That's why we are in this constant, we're not necessarily safe all the time, so you can't let your guard down. So sometimes the constant threat might be why some things continue. And also new generations, the people, like for example, my little sister who doesn't remember a lot of these things, the new generations, they don't remember how ugly it was. They don't remember the violence. They probably didn't have to see their friends, their loved ones get killed. So if time will go on and there'll be more and more, that picture will be farther away. So the question is, where are they gonna sustain the movement? Once our generation who saw it, who went through it, once we are gone, will they continue the movement, or will they let their guard down and be like, we're good, we don't have to do it no more, we're safe, and will the cartels come back and take the community back? And then we have to preserve this historical memory. It's not going to be put in a whole lot of textbooks in Mexico or in other places. People may not know about this. Everyone thinks about, oh, Mexico and cartels, and they think of Narcos or a show like that, right? But the lived experiences are very much different. And then there's policy implications here in the US, over there. It's tied in so many ways. I won't get into that because then that's more politics. But yes, it's basically community-based security, the role of self-defense groups and community policing too, which is kind of where it ties into like criminology and stuff as well. And then again, government accountability, how we are making the government accountable in all of these areas. So my last chapter, I did like a personal vignettes as windows, thanks to Dr. Blair, and she encouraged me and others to also put my own voice and my experiences. So I kind of just talked about some stories. These are the names of the stories. And I'm sorry, I should have given you a heads up that there might be some gruesome pictures here. But one of the stories is my Greek and final Latin, my Latin final. We were supposed to go with some high school, when we were in high school, to take a final, but our teacher never showed up. And if you read my thesis, you read that part of the story, but one of the reasons is that he got kidnapped and he got hanged. I struggled a lot if I should put this picture to like honor him, but I also want to honor the movement and how bad it was. But this is a particular photo of one of my teachers from high school. This is the location. So that is there, and this is the day that my town gained its independence. So this is the day that they rang the bells in the center of town, like an old revolution story, and they're like, hey, we're free, come and fight. So I'm somewhere in there. But that's that photo. And then basically the impact on research, I'm just kind of trying to bridge the personal with the academic, having to do this thesis. From my perspective, in an academic perspective, was very challenging. It was hard, but it was also very interesting because now I was kind of forced to look at it not from so much how a personal way, but also to realize the narratives, the stories that were seen in other points of view. So it was very interesting and very healing as well. Again, there was an emotional depth to the analysis. And overall, it just validates also my people's experience, what they went through, and what they continue to go through, because they're still out there watching barricades day and night. Even past now almost 11 years, they're still doing it. In conclusion, so my key contributions, I guess, was, first of all, my whole goal of doing this was I wanted documentation of this successful resistance. Some of my cohort members here that got to graduate last semester, and I stayed purposely a little bit later because I wanted to make sure that it was a thesis and it's something that I could document. The analysis of community narrative construction, how narrative really can reconstruct a whole community, a whole people. That's a big, I hope that it's a good contribution. Again, the integration of personal and academic perspectives, the autoethnographic approach. When I was presented that as a grad student, I thought that was amazing. And I like to see that there's actual voices being heard also in the academia, personal ones that are not always objective. where am I at? Okay, future directions. So just real quick, maybe something that can be looked at is the long-term study of this movement. Like why, go into detail into why is it that it's been successful for so long. If people wanted to approach this in the psychological way too, it's like how has this impacted the community for this amount of time. That I personally have been diagnosed with PTSD because of things that I witnessed. But again, it's like maybe follow these people, these leaders, and see what have been the aftermath of it as well, compared to the other communities too that have fell into the hands of the cartels again. Again, how will the new generations take on this movement? Significance. Well, again, just giving hope for communities under cartel control. So maybe those communities that fell down, who started the movement and went back into the cartel hands, maybe that they can regain that independence. How there is definitely power to numbers. I guess here we realize in this nation how divided we are, and if we kind of came together, I'm sure we could get a lot done. So there is importance in numbers, and just again, the power of narrative and social movements is a key factor to all of this. And that's basically the end of it. I was looking up this picture. I was trying to find these two gentlemen. So this is Dr. Mireles. He was one of the first ones to start the movement, and this is Hipólito Mora. And I was trying to find a picture of them together, and I came across this photo that I didn't know was out there, but that is me right there holding the laptop, the tablet, and that's my best friend Nayeli too. So I saw that and I just started bawling, started crying. But I just want to give all of you a big thanks, to being here.